All right, college algebra, functions, operations, and compositions, section 2.8. All right, so we're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing functions. Right here we have f plus g of -6. All right, f plus g of -6. This is the same thing as f of -6 plus g of -6. Okay? So what I got to do is I got to find f of -6, I got to find g of -6, and then I add them together. All right, so if you look, here's my functions right here. F of -6, well, I put -6 in there, so that's going to be -6 plus 1, which is -5. Okay, so there's what f of -6 is. Now I put -6 in the g function. Well, here's the g function right here. So that's going to be -6 squared minus -6. All right, so that's going to be 42. You just punch that in your calculator. So there's f of -6, or g of -6. Here's f of -6, and I add the two together, which is going to be 37. Okay. Let's look at number 2. All right, we want to do f minus g of -2. All right, so that means we're going to do f of -2 minus, there's a minus right here, and we'll do g of -2. So I got to do f of -2 minus g of -2. So I do f of -2, well, I put -2 in for x right here in the f function. So it's going to be 2 times -2 squared plus 5. Okay, so it's going to be 13 minus, now do g of -2. All right, here's the g function right here. I'm going to put -2 in that. So it's going to be 6. 13 minus 6 is 7. There's my answer. Okay. Let's scroll on up here to number 3. Let's move this up a little bit. All right, number 3. Okay, we're going to do f of x is this, g of x is that. Now, what is f plus g of -4? All right, so we got f plus g of -4. All right. So that means it's going to be f of -4 plus g of -4. F of -4 plus g of -4. All right, so f of -4, I put -4 in the f function. So if I put -4 in right here, -4 plus 4 is 0. Plus, now do g of -4. So I put -4 in the g function. So it's going to be -4 squared minus -4. All right, which is going to be 20. And now I add these together. 0 plus 20 is 20. All right, so here, this number is f of -4. This number is g of -4, and I add them together. And 20 is my answer. Okay, what about 4? All right, so we got f of x is this, g of x is that, so I'm doing f minus g of -3. All right. So f minus g of -3. Okay, so I do f of -3 minus g of -3. F of -3 minus g of -3. All right, f of -3, I'm going to put -3 in the f function, so it's going to be 4 times -3 squared plus 2. I'm putting -3 right here in the f function. All right, so it's going to be 38. I'm just doing this in my head. All right, minus, now I got to do g of -3. So I put -3 in the g function right here, which is going to be -4 times -3 plus 6. That's going to be 18. Oops. 18, and it's a minus. It's f of 3 minus g of negative, f of negative 3 minus g of negative 3. And 38 minus 18 is 20. My answer would be 20. Okay. All right, now go to number 5. All right, number 5 here, we got us a product. It says FG of 8. All right, so we got FG of 8. All right, so that's f of 8 times g of 8. All right, so I got to do f of 8, and then I got to multiply it times g of 8. Same kind of deal. So let's do f of 8 first. So I'm going to put 8 in right here. It's going to be 8 squared minus 20, which is 44, times. Now I got to do g of 8. All right, if I put 8 in the g function, I'm going to have 5 minus 8, which is negative 3. And so now multiply, that's going to be negative 132. There you go, that's right. Okay, so it's really not that complicated. Let's move on to the next page here. Number 6. Okay, number 6 here. Let f of x be this, let g of x be that. Now do f divided by g of 2. All right, so this is f divided by g of 2. Okay, which is going to be this. It's going to be f of 2 divided by g of 2. Okay, so f of 2, well, I'm going to take the f function, put 2 in. All right, so I'm just going to go sideways here. That's going to be 2 squared minus 8. And if I put 2 in the g function, that's going to be 8 minus 2. Okay, so I'm putting 2 in for x. So right here, this is going to be negative 4. On top, see 2 squared is 4, minus 8 is negative 4. On the bottom, 8 minus 2 is 6. So this is going to be negative 4, 6, which simplifies negative 2/3. All right, so there's my answer right there. Okay. Now, when we get to number 7, move this up a little bit. Okay, number 7, we've got these functions here, f and g. All right, it says find f plus g of x, f minus g of x, f times g of x, and f divided by g of x. So basically, let me write these down. F of x is 5x plus 4. G of x is 2x minus 5. Okay, first we want to do f plus g of x. Okay, which means we're going to do f of x plus g of x. All right, well, here's f of x right here. So this is 5x plus 4. There's f of x right there. G of x, well, is this 2x minus 5. I'm just going to add these together. So I just add my like terms. So 5x plus 2x will be 7x. And then 4 plus negative 5 will be negative 1. And there we go, 7x minus 1. All right, so the answer is way down here off the screen, but that's right. Okay, the next one, I'm doing f minus g of x, which is going to be f of x minus g of x. Okay, all right. So f of x, well, right there, right here's f of x, 5x plus 4 minus, and g of x, well, right there's g of x, 2x minus 5. And I got to subtract those. Okay, now when we subtract, we talked about this earlier, we want to add and then do the opposites over here. So that turns that to a negative 2x, and that turns it into a plus 5. So I change these to opposites, and I add instead of subtracting. So 5x plus negative 2x would be 3x. And then 4 plus 5 would be 9. 3x plus 9. And my answer's off the screen, but that's right, 3x plus 9. Okay. All right, so next, for this problem, we're doing f times g of x. All right, that's going to be f of x times g of x. Okay, well, now f of x, we've already done that a time or two. That's 5x plus 4. And then g of x is 2x minus 5. And I'm going to multiply these. Okay, now multiplication, I need to do this multiplication box we've talked about earlier. I'm going to put 5x plus 4 up here, 2x minus 5 there. And in this square, that's going to be 5x times 2x, which is 10x squared. Right here, this is 4 times 2x, which is 8x. Okay, right here, negative 5 times 5x is negative 25x. And right here, 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. These two are like terms. So my final answer is 10x squared. And then 8 plus negative 25 is negative 17x. And then I got negative 20. All right, so that should be my answer right there. And 10x squared minus 17x minus 20 is right. Okay. And then the last one on this, I got to do f divided by g of x. Okay, let me scroll this down a little bit more. I got to do f divided by g of x. Well, that's going to be f of x divided by g of x. All right, so that's going to be f of x, which is 5x plus 4, divided by g of x, which is 2x minus 5. And then I have to divide these. All right, well, there's really no way to do this division here. So nothing cancels because I have two terms down here, I have two terms up there, and these two terms would have to divide those two terms, and so they don't. They have to divide both of them, so that's just how we have to leave it. Okay? Now, then it asks for the domain of each of these. All right, so let's go back through here on the first one here when we did f plus g of x. And we got this answer. Now, for this right here, what's my domain? Okay, well, if I look at this right here, 7x minus 1, there's no issues with this as far as something x cannot be. So this is just negative infinity to positive infinity. No issues as far as what x cannot be. I'll show you an issue here in a minute. This one, same thing. There's no issues as far as what x cannot be on this one. So my domain here is negative infinity to positive infinity. Same deal here. There's no issues with x in this one. So my domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, this last one we have an issue. We have an issue because down here in the bottom, we cannot let this be 0. If this on the bottom is 0, I'm dividing by 0, and that's undefined, as we talked about before. So the value right here that makes this be 0, I have to exclude it from the domain. Okay? Now, I think I've showed you this before, 2x minus 5. All right, so that's going to be positive 5 divided by 2. See, this right here is a factor. All right, so my 0 for that would be positive 5 divided by 2, or 5 halves. This would be my 0 for that factor. Okay, just real quick, let me do some of these again, just for your benefit. If I had 3x plus 7, these are my factors. 4x minus 9, 7x plus 6, these are factors. here, do a negative one. Negative 3x minus 14. Okay. All right, so if these are my factors, what's my 0? Oops, not off the paper. What's my 0 for that? Okay. So right here, this is going to be negative 7 divided by 3. This is going to be positive 9 divided by 4. This would be negative 6 divided by 7. This would be positive 14 divided by negative 3. These are my zeros. See, if I take this 9/4 and I put it in for x right there, it'll give me 0. Look here. I'll do that real quick, show you. If I put 9/4 in there for x, I'm going to have 4, and then I'm going to have 9/4, so 9 divided by 4, and then minus 9. And then look at there, 0. Okay. And all these are zeros. If I put each one of these in that expression, I'll get 0. Okay. Well, that's what I did here on this one. 2x minus 5 is my factor on the bottom, which would be positive 5 divided by 2. This is my 0 for that. And I cannot have that value because that would make me divide by 0. So I have to take this value out of the domain, which means my domain would be this. Normally it'd be negative infinity. Normally, negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay? But I got to take this 5 halves out, which means I'm going to do this. Negative infinity to 5 halves. I'm going to put parentheses, which means I don't include that value. Union, and then I'm going to pick up on the other side 5 halves and go to positive infinity. And that's how I would write my domain right there. That excludes 5 halves. So that's everything from negative infinity up to 5 halves and not including it. And then picking up on the other side 5 halves and going to positive infinity. And this excludes 5 halves. That would be my domain. Okay. All right, so number 7 was a rather lengthy problem. Okay, now this is, I like doing these right here. These are kind of interesting. We've got a graph here. Okay, we want to find f plus g of 2 and f minus g of 1 and so forth on these. Okay. All right. And if you look at the graph over here, the blue one is the f of x function, and the red one is the g of x function. All right, so here I want to do f plus g of 2, which means I'm going to do f of 2 plus g of 2. All right, so if you look at the graph, f of 2, now you got to remember now, okay, f of 2 equals what? All right, in this one, let me just look at it real quick. F of 2, so you got to remember this right here is the x value. And this over here that it equals is the y value. So if I go to 2, or here's 2 of x, see this is the x-axis. If I go to 2, where's the function of 2, the f function, located? Well, it's up here. It looks like 4. This is 4. That's my y value. So this number in the parentheses here is the x value, and this number that it equals is the y value. All right, so when it says f of 2, well, that's 4. Plus, now g of 2, well, g's the pink one, the red one. So if I go to g of 2, well, that'd be down here at negative 2. See that? See, here's 2 for x. This is my x. So the g function, that x value would be negative 2. So this is 4 plus negative 2. Okay? Which would be 2. So my answer is down here. You can see it there, 2. That would be 2. All right, now what's f minus g of 1? Okay, that's going to be f of 1 minus g of 1. All right, we've done several of these already. So f at 1, all right, here's 1 at x. F at 1 would be 1. Minus g at 1. G at 1 is, look here, it's -3 down here. See that? G at 1 is -3. So it's 1 minus -3, which is 4. Let me write them on here. What did we say this one was 2? And that one's 4. And you can barely see the answer down there at the bottom. All right, now what's FG of 0? All right, that's going to be F of 0 times G of 0. All right, so what's F function at 0? At 0, it's 0. See right here? It's 0 high at 0. So it's going to be 0 times, well, I can already tell the answer is 0 because 0 times anything is 0, but let's go ahead just for the purpose of it. Let's find G of 0. So at 0 here, G is down here at -4. So it's 0 times -4, which is a 0. Okay. And now F divided by G of 1. All right, that's going to be F of 1 divided by G of 1. Okay. So F at 1, I think we already did that one, didn't we? That's 1 right there. And then G at 1, yeah, that's -3. So this is -1/3. Okay. All right. All right, now number 9, we have this table here. All right, so in this table, here's what the x value is. Here's the function of x, and here's the g of x. So the f of x, see, these are the y values for the f function, and here's the y values for the g function. Okay, so on A here, I'm doing f plus g of 3. What does this mean? Well, it's f of 3 plus g of 3. All right, f of 3, all right, f at 3 is 9. G at 3, all right, here's 3 again, and g is -2. So it's going to be 9 plus -2, which is 7. Okay. Then we're doing f minus g of 6. So it's going to be f of 6. This is going to be f of 6 minus g of 6. All right, f at 6 is 14. Minus g at 6 is 5. 14 minus 5 is 9. So this was 7, that was 9. And there's my answer right there, so we're in good shape. Okay, now this next one, f times g of -3. Okay, let me all right, so I'm doing fg of -3. So that's going to be f of -3 times g of -3. F at -3 is 0. And then g at -3 is 4. 0 times 4 is 0. So it's 0. All right, we're batting 1,000 here. We're doing good. All right, the last one on this. Okay. F divided by g of 0. It's here. It's right here. So it's going to be f of 0 divided by g of 0. Okay, so f at 0 is 6 divided by g at 0 is 0. All right, this is undefined. See, I'm dividing by 0, so that's undefined. We can't divide by 0. All right, so I think that's all the operations as far as add, subtract, multiply, and divide. All right, now we get to number 10 here. And this, here's f of x, here's h of x. And we want to do f, and see this open circle? This is a composition. We're doing a function of a function. All right, so what you usually do is, we're going to do the second one and put it in the first one. So basically, let me write down here. We're doing f of h is how we say this. This is f of h of 3, which means I'm going to do h of 3. So I'm doing f of h of 3 is what I'm doing. So h of 3, I put 3 in the h function. Well, that's going to be negative 3 plus 4. So when I put 3 in for the h function, so here's the h function. If I put 3 in the h function, negative 3 plus 4 would be 1. All right, so this value is 1. So now I'm going to do f of that 1. So if I put 1 in the f, 4 times 1 is 4, minus 1 would be 3. 3 is my answer. Okay, we'll do another one like that. Maybe you couldn't follow that very well. We'll do another one, and maybe you could watch it again to understand it a little better. We got another one here. We got actually 2 more we're going to do. Okay, we'll do both of these 2 right here. Okay, so right here. F of x is this, h of x is this. We're going to do f of h of negative 3. So we're going to do f of h of negative 3, which means we're going to do f of h of negative 3. And we got to do h of negative 3 first. So I'm going to put negative 3 in the h function right here. Okay, so when I put negative 3 in there, I got this negative right there. I'm going to put negative 3 here, minus 5, and that's going to be negative 2. Okay, so I'm putting negative 3 in the h function, and that's going to be negative 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. Okay, now I got to do f of that. So I'm going to take the f function here, and I'm going to put negative 2 in there. Let me just write it out here. This is going to be negative 4 times negative 2 minus 1. Okay, and that's 7. There you go. Okay, and then here's another one. Here's f function, here's h function. I'm going to do h. All right, now it's backwards this time. I'm doing h of f. H of f of 6, which means I'm doing h of f of 6. So I got to do f of 6 here. All right, so I'm going to put 6 in the f function now. So this is going to be 5 times, here's me right over here, 5 times 6 minus 1. That's going to be 30 minus 1, which is 29. All right, so this is 29. Now I'm doing h of this answer. All right, so I'm going to put 29 in the h function, which means I got negative 29 plus 4, which is negative 25. And that's my answer right there. Okay. You look at these and maybe rewind and watch it again to help you understand it. We've only got like 4 more. Okay, 13. All right, on 13, for the functions f of x and g of x, find the following. F of g of x and its domain. Then I want to find g of f of x. All right, let me write it out here. All right, f of x is negative 10x plus 15. And then g of x is 7x plus 9. All right, for part A, we want to find f of g of x. Okay, which is just f of g of x. I got to find g of x and put in f of x. Well, g of x is just this right here. So I'm going to take this right here and I'm going to put it in the f function, okay, which looks like this one. So I'm going to take this function right here and put it in that one. So right here I've got negative 10. And then right there where x is, this is coming in at this whole thing. So it's going to be 7x plus 9. So I'm putting that in for the x here, and then I got the plus 15. So look at this right here now. I've got 10x plus 15. 10x plus 15, and right there where x was, I'm putting this other function in. And then I just distribute and simplify. So negative 10 times this. All right, I got to distribute. So negative 10 times 7x is negative 70x. Negative 10 times 9 is negative 90 plus 15. and then those two are like terms. That's going to be negative 75. That should be it right there. Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right, let me do the second one here. The B answer. This is do g of f of x. All right, now we're doing g of f of x, which means I'm doing g of the f of x function. All right, so I'm taking f of x and I'm putting it in the g function. All right, so can I get that back up here and you can see it? Here's my two functions again, okay? So I'm taking the f function this time and putting it in the g function. So here's my g function, which is 7x plus 9. So this is the g function. Now the f of x function goes in the g function. I'm going to put the f of x function in for x of the g. And here's the f. So it's negative 10x plus 15. Okay, so this basically the second one goes in the first one. So here's the first one, the g of x function, and the second one, f of x, goes in that one. So I take this and put it in for x of that. And then I distribute now. So 7 times negative 10x is negative, hold on, let me just move this up some. So 7 distributes, that's going to be negative 70x. And 7 times 15 is 105 plus 9. And then these are like terms. That's going to be 114. Oops. There we go. Let's see here. All right, we're good. All right, then it asks for what the domain is for each of those. All right, so if you look at these two answers here, okay, are there any restrictions on what x can't be? Here, there's no restrictions. So x can be negative infinity to positive infinity. That'd be my domain. And same thing here, negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, the only restrictions you can have is like what we did earlier when we had like 2x plus 5 over 3x minus 1. We can't have a 0 down here, so we have to exclude that value like we did, I think it was number 7 maybe. Okay, so you have to exclude that value. And also, if you have like an expression like this in a radical, this can't be negative, so you have to take out the negative values of that, which means you find your 0 here, which would be positive 1/3, and that's the lowest it could be. That makes it be 0, so you can have the radical of 0, which is 0, but you can't go below that, which would make it negative. So that would be your domain for something like this. Okay, this here you have to exclude that value, so that'd be negative infinity to, that'd be positive 1/3. And then 1/3 to infinity, like we did just a few minutes ago. But with this problem, there are no restrictions, so this would be my domain for these two. Okay. All right, number 14. Okay. Now, I think we're going to have restrictions here because I see a radical. Okay, let's see here. So we've got these two functions. We will find f of g of x. All right, so f of x is radical x. G of x is x plus 3. All right, we want to find f of g of x. So basically this second one goes in the first one. So I'm going to take the g of x function here and I'm going to put it in that one. So it's going to look like this, the radical of x plus 3. So I got the radical of x, and right there for x, I'm putting this x plus 3 in. So that's what it would look like right there. All right, so you see the answer, that's it. Now what's my domain here? Now as far as my domain, I just talked about this. You cannot have a negative in this. So 0 is as low as you can go. So what's my 0 for this? Well, it's going to be negative 3 divided by 1, which is negative 3. So negative 3 is the lowest I can go, and I can have negative 3, so I put this bracket. And I go all the way to infinity. I just can't go below negative 3. So there would be my domain. I have to stop at negative 3. That's as low as I can go. Okay, now, what's g of f? All right, so there's the first part, A. Now, what's g of f of x? All right, so let me move this up a little bit. Just to remind you, f of x is radical x. G of x is x plus 3. Okay? So on this one now, since f of x is second, I'm going to put f of x in the g of x function. So here's my f of x right here. I'm going to put that in for x over there, which means it's going to look like this. Radical x going in for x plus 3. That'd be it right there. And you can see my answer for that right here. Now, what's my domain for that? Okay, well, see, my radicals where I got my issue here because I can't have a negative there. So there's my restriction. I can't have a negative. So the lowest x could be here would be 0. But I can go all the way to infinity. So that would be my domain. Okay, there you see it. All right, just a couple more. We got another one here. Actually, we got 2 more. Okay, on 15. All right, here's f of x. Here's g of x. Okay, what's f of g of x? So the second one goes in the first one. So my second one right here, this, that goes in for x over here on this. So it's going to look like this. I got all this x to the third power. So this is x to the third power, and right there where x is, this second one's coming into it. So I'm going to have this right here. Okay, and you just leave it like that. You don't have to work it out anymore. There's it right there. So you can see it right here, answer. Now, what's my domain for that? Well, there's no restrictions here. Your restrictions, again, is when you have a denominator, like if you have 3x plus 5 over 2x minus 1, that gives me a restriction down there because I can't divide by 0. So there's one type of restriction. The second type is when you have a radical, like 3x plus 5 in a radical. These are my 2 restrictions I have, where x cannot be certain values. But this doesn't have any, so on this one, that's just negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, so you see that answer there. Okay, now for part B, we got to do g of f. G of f of x, which means I take the f function and I'm going to put it in for the g function. So here's my g function right there. Now let me write it out. Where the x is, I'm going to put these blank parentheses. So I got x squared plus 5x minus 4. Let me move it up a bit, okay? All right, so I'm taking the f function, putting it in the g function. So I wrote the g function out. See, here's my g function right there, x squared plus 5x minus 4. I wrote the g function out, and the f function's coming in it. My f function is x to the third. So x to the third comes here, x to the third goes there. Okay, and now right here, x to the third squared, well, I just multiply these two. That's going to be x to the 6th, and then 5 times x to the third, and then minus 4. That would be it right there. And there it is, you see. Now, what's my domain for that? Well, there's no restrictions. Okay, remember your restrictions are these 2 cases. If you're dividing by an expression, I have to exclude that 0 amount, whatever that value is. And if you have a radical with an expression in it, there's my restrictions. I don't have any here. So this is just negative infinity to positive infinity. That's my domain. All right. Now, one last one, number 16, and we're done with this section. Okay. So for the functions, here's f of x and here's g of x. All right, find f of g of x. Find f of g of x. Okay, well, the second one goes in the first one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the first one out, which is the radical of x minus 1. Okay, there's my f function right there. See, radical of x minus 1. And right there where x is, the g function is going to go in there. The g function is just 4x. So this is just going to be 4x minus 1. All right, so can you see the answer down there? Yeah, right there. Now, what's my restriction there? Well, this is a restriction because we got a radical, and we can't have a negative in that radical. So the lowest this could be is the 0. Well, here's my 0, positive 1 over 4. So I can have that value, and I can go to infinity from there. So any of these values work, but anything less than 1/4 will not work because it's going to make us have a negative. See, if I 0 won't work because it's not in this interval. If I put 0 in there, look here, 4 times 0 is 0 minus 1. I got the radical of negative 1. That's imaginary. I can't do that. So this is my interval for my domain. All right. And then what about g of f? All right, so the f function is going to go in the g function this time. So my g function is right here, 4x. There's my g function. See there? My g function is 4x. So 4x. And right there where x is, the f function is going to come in it. Well, here's my f function right there. Radical x minus 1. All right, so this is just going to be 4 times the radical of x minus 1. All right, so you can see that right here. That's the answer. Now, what's my domain? Well, I've got a restriction here. This radical cannot be negative. It can be 0. So what's my 0 for this? Well, it's going to be positive 1 divided by 1, which is 1. I can have 1, and I can go all the way to infinity. But I can't go below 1 because that would make me have a negative in there, which would make it imaginary. All right, so I think that's it here. Yeah, that's all we've got. So hopefully this won't cause you too much trouble, but if it does, contact me and I'll help you all I can. All right, so have a good rest of the day.